What drives someone to change the world? Welcome to Social Trailblazers, where we seek to answer just that question. Join Kelly Gagnon, CEO of Nonprofit Marketing Nerd, as she interviews leading social innovators and nonprofit changemakers. This podcast is brought to you by DonorBox, the easiest way for nonprofits to rock their online donations.
In this episode of Social Trailblazers, I'll be interviewing Rob Kerr, Executive Director of the Innovation and Opportunity Center at the University of Illinois Springfield. Rob brings a wealth of knowledge of fostering an ecosystem of innovation and entrepreneurship. Rob's career spans leadership in higher education and economic development, making him a unique voice in how nonprofits can drive positive change through innovation. In this episode, Rob really dives in to how nonprofits can create opportunities for collaboration and growth. Stick around to the end where Rob gives great advice on how nonprofits can really leverage strategic innovation to expand their reach and impact. I am so excited to see a very friendly face and welcome him to Social Trailblazers. Rob and I were just realizing that it maybe has been almost a decade since we've touched base last. But I am so excited to share his brain with listeners and share a little bit about kind of the trajectory that got him to where he is now at the University of Illinois Springfield. And really, your role is quite unique. Can you share what drives your passion for innovation?
Sure. So thanks, Kelly. It is great to see you again. Yeah, at least 10 years, I think.
Yeah.
I loved working with you when we were together. I always thought you were one of the few people in higher ed that would get things done. So not surprised that you're doing something fun like this right now these days. But my title is, I'm in higher ed, so titles don't always connect well, but it's Executive Director of Innovation and Opportunity. And it is a brand new position at the University of Illinois Springfield. Essentially what we did was cobble together a couple different teams with the mandate of developing and opening a new downtown innovation center for the university. Very exciting. We have funding from the state through the Illinois Innovation Network to create a physical building, a physical space, because space is important when you're talking about innovation ecosystems. You need that kind of cornerstone, and that's what we're working on here. But we also have a lot going on in the interim between when this center opens, hopefully in 2026, and where we are now. So we have Innovate Springfield, which is where I'm located now. This is the 7,000 square foot university business incubator that's been part of UIS since 2018, located downtown. So that's part of, my team, as well as a group called Continuing and Professional Education, which is a team that I started in 2020 that kind of took the expertise on campus and helped to turn it around and face it externally to engage businesses, state agencies, and help support them and nonprofits in achieving their missions. So we kind of bolted those two things together, called it the Innovation Center, and now we're off and running.
And I heard you say a lot of first and start, right? And people do associate that with innovation, but you're in a new role, it's cobbled together, you're figuring it out, it's a new building, and there's another new building, and there's another new program. And I think for a lot of, especially, my people, the people listening are mostly from the nonprofit association space, and change and new is scary. Let's take a step back. Why are you in the space of constant change and innovation? And what would you say to others that are maybe scared to go through that new?
Sure. And we have these conversations every day here at the center, because we're building something here and we need partners. And that's really the most important. So when you talk about nonprofit leaders, we just had a classroom full of nonprofit leaders here at Innovate Springfield this morning, talking with the University of Illinois Springfield CFO about how they could structure their budgets. As you know, budgeting is always usually kind of a difficulty for nonprofits. So my simple answer is innovation just means improving, right? And nonprofits are an incredibly important component of our ecosystem here in Central Illinois, as they are in any ecosystem, right? We've got university partners, we've got government partners, of course we have private industry partners, but those nonprofits play a critical role. So we work very closely with our nonprofits. In fact, one of the reasons that Innovate Springfield started was as a social incubation office. So really what we were, one of our core missions was to help nonprofits in the region ensure that they were using, research-based solutions to their problems, and to help them be able to verify that and be able to communicate that to other funders. So that was an important part that the University of Illinois Springfield could help with nonprofits in the area. But yeah, I think, the word innovation has almost become a cliche. But really, when you boil it down, I see it more as a process, so it's about bringing together people with the intent of trying to improve something. So from a business standpoint, you're trying to be efficient, maybe bring a new idea to market. But in nonprofits and in universities, right, we're trying to figure out what are the problems that need to be addressed and how can we do that most effectively given the resources we have.
And I think, speaking of that, Rob and I first met when you were the registrar at a community college, and I was the director of adult education. And I would say, I don't want to say we were movers and shakers, but we were definitely some of the personalities, process pushers, I think, within the institution, which I think is a great place to be. So you've had a pretty diverse career, right? That was just in education, in government, in economic development. So what drew you to this role specifically where you are now?
Sure. It's always fun to turn around in your career, take a look back and wow, that was a really weird path that got me here. If I could have gone back 20 years ago and tried to map out how I would get here, I don't think I would have ever been able to say, take this turn and that turn. A lot of it was intentional. Some of it was just coincidence and being in the right place at the right time. But as I tell my students and my kids, luck favors the prepared, so if you are in a position and, you get that great opportunity and you're able to take advantage of it and you feel lucky, that it's good to feel lucky and appreciate that good fortune, but you were probably prepared for that to take advantage of that opportunity. So for me, I've been in higher education for essentially all of my career, but that included some time at state agency work. So I've been in the community college system for most of my career here in Illinois. The Illinois Community College Board is the state agency that, manages them. So I kind of went from higher ed institution to government, and then I would kind of miss being on campus and having students around, and I'd go back to a campus. And then, I'd kind of want to have a different experience. So I'd go back to government. So I kind of, for about 15 years or so, kind of went back and forth between different community colleges and state agencies. And then when I was at Richland in Decatur, I got my MBA. And let me tell you, that was a big change moment for me. I had never really thought of myself, as an MBA person, but was really pleasantly surprised that it was, how flexible it was. And I just fell in love with economic development. That's what I did my master's thesis on. And it was a really interesting piece. So when I got my MBA, I then went and worked for the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity here in Springfield, and got to lead the team that was Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Technology. It was a fascinating learning experience. It was like a second MBA for me. So, but that's what kind of got me connected in this space. And then once again, like I said, I get tired of not being on campuses. So took an opportunity to move from there and came over to the University of Illinois Springfield. That's where I started that continuing and professional education group, which really kind of combined a lot of my background together. And that got me working with the folks here at Innovate Springfield. And then this new opportunity came along, and, they said, hey, how about you take that team that you built and bring it over here, and we'll create something new. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Yeah.
And you said the date is, I'm not going to hold you through this. We all know the development and launch of a building, but you said 2026, correct? Yeah, that's what we're looking at right now. Yeah. It's as you can imagine, it's a public project. There's a lot of partners. There's a lot of players. The University of Illinois Springfield is, of course, one of the 3 University of Illinois campuses. So that means we've got the great help from the University of Illinois system folks. They've just been wonderful in helping us navigate through this. There's the state funding aspect to it. And, we're in downtown Springfield. There's a lot of historic sites around. You have to be very careful. So yeah, it's
we want to do this right. We've got one bite at this apple. So we're being conservative as we do this and want to make sure that it's done right.
This episode is brought to you by DonorBox, the online fundraising platform that streamlines your process, elevates your donations, and ensures a user-friendly experience for your supporters. Explore the world of simplified, seamless fundraising at DonorBox.org today.
I know with innovation, with change, and with what I call failing forward, things don't always go as planned. And so maybe something you're okay sharing. Can you share a little bit about maybe a stumbling block you've hit in this process of having a physical center?
Sure. Yeah. It's one of the great things about working in kind of this entrepreneurship space, and I kind of feel like I'm Jane Goodall, by the way, when it kind of comes to working with entrepreneurs, because I'm not an entrepreneur by trade. You are fascinating, wonderful. I'm an administrator. So really the reason I was brought in was to get this project through to completion successfully. And that's my background, public projects, working in government. But I am surrounded here by creative people who are doing cool and interesting things. And so I just love to kind of observe, like they've welcomed me into their tribe, and I get to eat lunch with them. And so I kind of feel like, an anthropologist or something studying entrepreneurs. But one of the hallmarks of this culture, which is so wonderful coming out of government and even higher ed, is failure is seen as, kind of a badge of honor. Failure means that you tried something, and whether or not that hit isn't really the point in entrepreneurship, right? It's, did you try? What did you learn? Come back and do it again. Iterate. And I find that culture just to be not just refreshing, but invigorating. Coming out of government where, let's face it, those aren't necessarily the rules.
None of those adjectives translate to government.
Yeah, it's a little different. But here, they embrace that. And it's great because we have connections with a lot of venture capitalists. We get a lot of venture capitalists in here talking to our members a lot. And they'll say that a lot. If we're evaluating a team, looking to see what kind of experience they've had is one of the first things they look at. And a failed attempt at launching a company, that's great. That's a plus in their book. Not to say that they love failure, but the difference between trying and not trying is what they're looking at. And not necessarily that outcome of win or lose, because they know that these are long-term kind of goals. So all of that said, I will say, it's been nice being in that kind of environment. But yes, of course, like any other professional, I try things all the time. It's been a frustrating process at times to get to this innovation center plan up and running. We've had some false starts. Luckily, though, I've got the backing of the Chancellor Gooch at UIS is just one of the most inspirational leaders I've ever worked with. Definitely the best CEO I've ever had the chance to work for. So, so she understands how this is going to be a process that takes some time. But, everything from I didn't listen to the right stakeholders. So we thought we were rolling out a program that was going to be really popular, but it turned out it wasn't something that people were really interested in. And that was my experience, like with the CAPE team, a continuing professional education. I launched that team in January of 2020. And the plan was to have this big program. We were going to offer online courses. We were going to offer face-to-face courses. And then March 13th, we all went home. And all of a sudden it was like complete pivot, just 100% pivot. Like, what are we going to do? And we were successful at pivoting, but a lot of the decisions we made during those, that 2020, 2021, didn't pan out. And it's about learning from your mistakes. Mine are usually that I was moving too fast, didn't listen to the stakeholders. I needed to, talk less, listen more. And that's been, I think, one of the biggest lessons I've learned through my career.
Okay. And I think there are a bunch of key takeaways, but I love I think for many leaders, we often think that we need to establish authority by talking. And I love it almost is like a Hamilton tip, right? But it's talk less, smile more, I think is the song, but talk less, listen more is great advice for any leader. No matter even how much natural listeners they are. But also, I want to tell you that you made me, just in that moment, as an entrepreneur, for many of the listeners, they probably know me as my second iteration as Nonprofit Marketing Nerd, but I, for 5 years, had what I think on paper and externally was a successful fractional development director company. At the end of the day, I totally burned out the model, the pricing, like everything. Like it kind of was successful, but like, and I'm like, I always kind of carry that, maybe not as a badge of honor, but now I'm going to wear that as a badge of honor because that's influenced so much of how I am as a human, how I come alongside nonprofits now, and how my business operates. So thank you for letting me realize I don't need to carry so much shame with that, Rob. It's the badge of honor of entrepreneurship, right? It
definitely is, yeah. And you should wear it well because when you look at successful entrepreneurs, those that have multiple attempts is the norm. It's really the rule. So everything you did in that first experience brought you to where you are now. Just like anything else, right? Just like all of us, we're building these life lessons and then we're hopefully learning from our mistakes and doing a little better and adjusting our approach. So yeah, I think you should be applauded for what you did.
While I have you, I want to pick your brain a little bit about the nonprofit sector a little more. And I would love if you can put on your academic hat, right? You can take off your adventure hat, put on your academic hat, and give us some advice. Nonprofits are so scared of innovation. Why do you think that is? Like, that's a scary thing to them. Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on maybe the sector you're in or the region you're in. Obviously, anytime you're talking about something that, is going to maybe interrupt that essential flow of revenue from your funders to output, whatever that is, whatever you're doing, that's the magic sauce, especially for nonprofits, right? Because you're getting money from a funder to do something. And then if someone like Rob Kerr comes along and says, hey, why don't you try to change that modality? Your first reaction might be, well, no, because I can't interrupt that flow of electrons because I depend on that. And, but it's the same kind of approach that any business has. That flow is the same for a business. And so what we're talking about really is, so first and foremost, it's, what we're trying to build here is what I like to refer, and it's commonly referred to as an innovation ecosystem, right? So that's what we're trying to do. And so I'm not trying to tell nonprofits what they should or shouldn't do. What I'm trying to do is say, hey, we're all working on this. So for example, we've got an interesting project that's building here, the continuum of learning. Working very closely with the Community Foundation of Land of Lincoln. They have been championing this goal for a long time. The university has been involved. So there's a lot of components that are out there. We're at the point now where we need to kind of move this project, kind of leap it up forward a little bit. And that's going to take engagement from all those nonprofits, from the university, from the K-12 system, from a lot of different partners. So I guess, I don't think that they should ever be afraid of the word innovation. And I don't think the nonprofits that we work with are. It's about helping them do their job better. What other resources could I bring to help you? How can the university's expertise help to improve your programming? And that's kind of the role that we want to be in. And this innovation ecosystem, it demands partners. And a lot of those partners are already here. They might not be connected, so we need to connect them. Then you need to figure out what you're missing, and then you just got to go out and find that, right? You've got to mine it. You might need to do some building on our own, and that's okay. That's what we want to do. But it does really take a really broad, diverse group in order to tackle the problems that we want to tackle. Central Illinois has got, some real specific issues, but it has got tremendous opportunities. So all we're trying to do is find some of those missing pieces and figure out how we can kind of insert those.
And I love the mining for partnerships, right? I think often people maybe wait, or they're like, well, these are my partners because these are my partners, and nothing changes, especially at an institution level. And talk to me maybe a little bit more prescriptively about if you were to talk to maybe one of our listeners who's been an executive director for a long time and they have the same, how would you go about mining partners? If finding partnerships, what would that look like?
Sure. So I think the first thing is to find common ground, right? What is this nonprofit? What is their intent? What is their funding? How can the university help? That is usually a pretty good conversation we get to have with nonprofits because I can deliver faculty expertise to support you. I can deliver students, right? We had a great project with a nonprofit here in town this summer that does great work. but their tech infrastructure was a little not as advanced as it was, and it was starting to kind of pull down their productivity, right? So what we got 2 graduate students, a computer science and an MIS student, and we embedded them with that nonprofit over the summer. They worked out of Innovate Springfield, but we're working with the nonprofit to kind of do a needs assessment of their of the tech, right? And I'm not talking anything big, just like they need to get an email server set up. We need to get some things in place. And then these students executed on that and did it. We just had a big report out last week. Everything went well. The nonprofit has taken a jump forward, which they are excited about. These students got real world problem solving experience on their resume. They had to present. They had to do all these things. I mean, it was a real win-win. So I'm not, oftentimes I think, sometimes the nonprofits think that engaging with us is going to cost them either in time or energy or maybe money. But really, we're trying to find out ways that we can help them. What can we bring to them? What are their problems and how can we help them solve it? And that's what Innovate Springfield, as I keep coming back to, is a social incubation center. That's what we're trying to do. So we have nonprofits that are members that come to us and can work alongside entrepreneurs and be within our space. And you just never know what kind of chance occurrence will happen when folks are, kind of working together in that same area. Oh, hey, you're working on that. I'm working on this. How can we collaborate? So ultimately, it's worth, the investment of time. I'm confident of that because I do think we've got a lot to offer to the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. And if you were to vision big, I think, Rob, this is usually a challenge for people. I don't think this is a challenge for you. Vision big, Rob, dream big. No, I think you and I are dreamers and doers, which is a unique combination. But if you were to dream big about the Innovation Center and the impact it would make, tell me a little bit about what that looks like.
Oh, sure. So this Innovation Center, I'm very excited about. I mean, this is gonna be big. So right now, Innovate Springfield's about 7,000 square foot. We're co-work space. We have members who are entrepreneurs. We have members who are associations because we're pretty close to the state capitol, so it's a great place to kind of call home. And this Innovation Center is going to be hopefully 3 times this size. So it's going to include everything we do here, but bigger, because as you know, square footage leads to programming and programming leads to outcomes. So we're beholden to a lot of our supporters for, jobs created in the region, businesses created, right? And then enrollments at the university. So we've got a real diverse kind of metrics that we use, but we also are adding an entirely new component to this, and that's talent pipeline work. So my background when I was at different community colleges was in career and technical education. And honestly, our University of Illinois Springfield is well positioned to partner with Lincoln Land Community College, which is just a couple blocks away from our campus, as well as the Capital Area Career Center, which is the secondary career center for the region. All of those 3 entities all exist within a half mile of each other on the south side of Springfield. So what we're trying to do is figure out what can we do to help build up that talent pipeline for the region. Because, when you're talking about economic development, right, people think about business creation, business retention, and business attraction, right? Makes sense, right? You want more businesses in your community. Those businesses need workers, need trained workers, need skilled workers in order to locate there, in order to stay there. Those trained workers need businesses. So it's kind of 2 sides of that economic development coin. And this new center is going to be addressing both sides. And we're doing that right now. So we've launched a new program this fall where we're teaching 50 high school seniors from all across the region on computer science, coding, robotics, and AI. And we're meeting with these students. We have a university computer science faculty member that meets with these students 5 days a week for the entire academic year. So you remember your higher ed days, thinking about contact hours and seat time for a college course is usually 3 hours a week for 16 weeks, right? This is insane, the amount of contact we get with these people. So it's just a wonderful experience. We work with a group of high school seniors on teaching them how to become entrepreneurs, called the Segment CEO program. So we're already kind of building this talent pipeline. And we're already seeing kind of reverberations in the community, and that's kind of what we want to do. We want to keep ramping up that kind of programming to help build that.
Awesome. I'm as someone that recently moved back to Central Illinois, and is about a 30-minute drive probably from where the location will be. I'm excited to see, as an entrepreneur, how everything kind of grows and flourishes. I am also very intrigued as someone that operates an entirely remote team by like what the use of space. I think I'm curious about the use of space to build innovation and to make impact. So that's very curious. So I know for a lot of listeners, especially ones based in Illinois, they're probably wondering like, how do I follow along? Where, like, Rob seems like a cool guy. Where can I follow? Can you? How do people get in contact with you?
Sure. So certainly LinkedIn is the best way. Rob Kerr, ROBKERR. I'm on LinkedIn, and if someone wants to reach out, I'd be happy to connect. You can go to our website, uis.edu/innovation, and that'll connect you with kind of our activities and our calendar and what's going on. And there's a good way to reach out to folks that way too. So, happy to connect with anyone. We work with people all across the globe. That's the great thing about the world we live in. So, and most of my team is fully remote. So they're all across the state of Illinois. Some are all across the country. So I am certainly accustomed to that. And, a lot of our programs are online as well. So, we're trying to keep up with that. That's a big chunk of what we do. Part of UIS's mission is online education. That always has been. So, no one was prepared to go fully remote in 2020, but I believe that UIS was pretty well situated to make that pivot. And that's because of the legacy of this institution.
Awesome. Well, Rob, I want to thank you. It's been so wonderful catching up with you and learning more about the future of the Innovation Center. But thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to stopping by the current operations at Innovate Springfield.
I'd love that, Kelly. Thank you so much for the invite. It was really great talking with you.
Thank you for tuning in to Social Trailblazers. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who are passionate about making a difference. Special thanks to our sponsor, DonorBox, for supporting this podcast and the incredible work of nonprofits everywhere. Join us next time as we continue to dive deep into the motivations of the change makers shaping our world. Until then, keep trailblazing.